Peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Queen Josette here. I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers, all of those wonderful, thoughtful, kind, considerate people who have graced my channel with your presence and shown me support and love over these past and during these challenging months. Your support and your kindness means so much to me. I want to say welcome back. I know I've been gone for a while. Welcome back to those who have been asking where have I been, and you've been waiting for me. And welcome to those who are new. I hope that you find the content of my channel interesting, informative. Don't hesitate to ask me questions, as you can see by a lot of the comments. Many questions that should not be asked have been asked. No matter, I still am courteous in addressing those questions. I just ask that we be mindful, a little bit kind, a bit understanding. Today I am going to do a walkthrough, of course. It's one of my things that I love to do. But when I do a walkthrough, I like to give you a bit of background history. I like to give you a bit of meat, something to chew on, something to walk away with. I don't like to just open up a box and all of that. I like to give you a little bit of food for thought. Now, a caveat here. I was told by someone, she left a comment, that she advised me that I research and learn how to pronounce things before I present them to the public. Well, yeah. So my response to her was she needs to come out of that dark hole that she occupies, that place of self-centeredness and righteousness and superiority, and join the rest of the human race and learn a bit of compassion and openness. Not everyone knows everything, and we know this, and many of us don't know everything about many of the things that we do speak about. We are just fonts of knowledge who are on a journey that is filled with just as much curiosity as the next person, and we just want to share our excitement in learning new things and discovering new things. So, to that particular human being, I hope you found another channel to go and, what's the word I'm looking for? Troll. To people who have made queries about my nails. Some have complained that they did not like the sound of my nails on the cards. Well, good grief. I don't like police brutality either, but we're not doing anything about that. So if you want to do something meaningful in your life, if you want to criticize something in your life, then look at the changes that need to be made in the world and start with doing a bit of self-reflective work. So let's get on with the walkthrough, shall we? So by the title you can see that I'm going to do a walkthrough of a mermaid deck. And I have a little bit, I did some research and some history on the concept and the idea of mermaids. And of course, in the diaspora, for many of us, the mermaid that may, or the image of a mermaid that may come to mind first and foremost is Yemoja, as many of you will pronounce her name as Yemaya. Yemoja is not a mermaid, but we as human beings, in order to understand something or define it, we need to cloak it in an air of familiarity so that we feel comfortable with it. So Yemoja, ye, Omo Aja, is Narisha, the mother of all, and I guess to get a better understanding of what her energy is, who she is, let's slap a tail on her and call her a mermaid. But that's a video for another time. So, for thousands of years, people have been writing about mermaids, and they are still incredibly popular in modern-day movies and TV series. Virtually every culture had their own versions of the mermaid legend. Sometimes they are sirens who try to lure men to their death out at sea. Other times they are trying their best to be friendly, and they may even want to become human. Today, almost everyone we've come to agreement that mermaid sightings in ancient times were most likely a figment of sailors' imaginations or misidentifying manatees, seals, and dolphins. However, that doesn't make it any less fascinating to know exactly what sort of mermaid legends exist throughout the world. So the first known mermaid stories appeared in Assyria around 1000 BC or 1000 BCE, before the Common Era. The goddess Atargatis, I'm sure someone will correct my pronunciation, mother of Assyrian queen Semiramis, loved a mortal, a shepherd no less, and unintentionally killed him. Ashamed, she jumped into a lake and took the form of a fish, but the waters will not conceal her divine beauty. So I have here like 10 mermaid legends from around the world. We are going to take a look at that deck. Let's see, this one, Kiask, and it's spelled C-E-A-S-G, but I saw the pronunciation as Kiask. This is a mermaid from the Scottish Highlands. It's half woman and half salmon. Legend has it that if a sailor can capture a Kiask, they will get 3 wishes. So, let's see. Then I have the Chilean royal family of the sea. In Chile, the mythological king of the sea was called Milalopo, who was half man, half sea lion, or Mialopo. Unlike most mermaid legends where these creatures just magically come into existence, he was, unfortunately, a product of a human mother and a sea lion father. In case you had any doubts, yes, there is a furry fan art of Mialopo everywhere. Let's see. And then there's a story that he married a human woman and they had a son and 2 daughters. Sailors describe seeing the merman, Pinkoi, when they were lost out at sea, and he helped bring them back to shore. His sister, Pinkoya, had long blonde hair and blue eyes. The stories describe her as being the most beautiful woman in the world. She sits on a rock and dances. If she faces towards the sea, it means the fishermen will find a lot of fish that year. If she faces the shore, it means they will struggle to find food. And just like many ancient royal families, they didn't exactly have many options when it came to continuing the mermaid gene pool. Not to get too Game of Thrones here, but Pinkoi and Pinkoya aren't just brother and sister. They are also husband and wife. According to one account from 1632, Pinkoya was spotted emerging from the sea holding a baby. Then we have Triton. Let's see. You will probably recognize the name Triton, or Triton. You tell me how to pronounce it. Frankly, it doesn't really matter. As Ariel's father in The Little Mermaid. You know, I never did watch that movie. Disney borrowed this character from Greek mythology of the god lake Tritonus. Of the god of the lake Tritonus. Triton was the son of Poseidon, and he carried a conch shell that he could use as a horn as well as his magic trident. According to legend, sailors got lost on the lake, and Triton helped them by creating a plot of land, which is now called the island of Thera. The sailors were able to rest while Triton explained to them how to get back to the sea. Of course, not all accounts of Triton were positive. So, I'll leave you to find out the rest of that story. Then, of course, we have Mamiwata. And that is the image that I think many people, unfortunately, confuse with Yemoja, Mamiwata. Mamiwata is an African mermaid goddess who is seen as a compassionate healer and mother to all aquatic creatures. Stories of her spread all over the continent and were eventually brought over to the Caribbean islands. There have been sightings of Mamiwata in lakes, rivers, and at the ocean shore. She is often spotted holding a water snake around her shoulders. They say that she can transform into a woman, fish, or a mermaid, depending on her mood. Today, people are still fascinated with the legend of Mamiwata. Statues and souvenirs of her are sold in gift shops. There's even a religious group called to praise the goddess, where an individual follower is called a Mamiwata child. They claim that Mamiwata is a name given to the collective of dozens of water deities. Followers claim that they see the mermaid of Mamiwata in their dreams, and it calls them to go a spiritual cleansing. I will be right back. Of course, I'm going to give you some reference books that you can go to. I have one here called Mamiwata, to learn about our religious sect. This is a book that was written by Mama Zogbe. Right there. Let me see. Can I get that? Yeah. Okay. And, of course, there's a second volume as well. Okay. So, now I can put everything back. Okay. So, there are information. What kind of English was that? Oh, my goodness. There is a lot of information out there that you can find if you're curious enough to do the research. As I say, don't ever take just anything given to you as the way, as gospel. Do a bit of research. Ask the questions. Please ask the questions. Okay, so now we have the Finn folk. In Scotland and Ireland, they believed in the Finn folk, who were mermaids who lived in an underwater kingdom called Finnfolkenheim. Finnfolkenheim. They also took a summer vacation of the islands of Hinderland, which would only appear for a moment before disappearing, making it impossible for humans to find. Finn folk were shapeshifters, so they could transform from full fish to full human, or swim around as mermaids. Stories say Finn folk men and women were very beautiful, in order to attract humans to mate with them. If they succeeded in finding a human lover, they would suck the youth out of them and live forever. So if anyone was kidnapped, or if sailors were lost at sea, it was blamed on the Finn folk, who were believed were captured as sex slaves. Let's see. However, if Finn folk married within their own species, the Finn wife was doomed to take on the guise of an elderly woman in order to find work on land to earn silver in order to keep them alive. They described the signs of a Finn wife as an older, unmarried woman who had cats and practiced witchcraft. Obviously, this is just one of the many ways people have tried to accuse lonely old women of being witches throughout the history of mankind. Now we have the two-tailed siren. Have you ever wondered why Starbucks has a two-tailed mermaid as its logo? The original image came from 7th century Italy. It was one of the many illustrations on the Otranto Cathedral in Italy, which is on one shore of the Mediterranean Sea. The mermaid was included next to images of biblical stories like the Tree of Life, as well as images of the Egyptian Sphinx and Alexander the Great. It was supposed to represent the exchange of religions, philosophies, and ideas that would be in exchange during the Middle Ages. Some believe that it was based on the legend of Melusine, the French water spirit, who was said to transform into a human woman or have fishtails. Throughout the years, many artists copied the image of the two-tailed siren. Starbucks claims that they were inspired by a 16th century Norse woodcut image of this mermaid. Apparently, the reason why they chose the image as their coffee logo is because they wanted their coffee to be just as seductive as a mermaid. Now we have, I'm not sure, this is an L or an I. I'm going to say Iara, I-A-R-A. According to Brazilian legend, Iara was a brave, intelligent girl living in the Amazon. She was a warrior who could fight better than her own brothers. She was so well loved and respected by her community, her brothers' accomplishments paled by comparison. Their jealousy was so intense that they killed her and dumped her body into the Amazon River. The goddess of the moon, Jasi, felt sorry for her and brought her back to life as a mermaid. After becoming a mermaid, Iara spent the rest of her days seeking revenge on men. Any time a man drowned in the river, they blamed it on Iara. Later on, a man named Jaragwari came across Iara, and they fell in love. He told his mother about the beautiful mermaid that he met while fishing on the Amazon River, and he decided to join her in a life underwater. Some believe that since then, her angry spirit has finally found peace. Now we have the Jamestown Mermaid. You may remember John Smith from the story of Pocahontas and his part in colonizing Jamestown, Virginia. Yeah, here we go. During his travels on the sea, he claimed to have seen a beautiful woman with green hair swimming next to the boat. When she dove underwater, he noticed that she was actually a mermaid. However, this account has been a topic of heated historic debate, with many people believing that John Smith never made this claim at all, and that writers telling the stories of his travels took creative liberties. Even so, this wasn't the only time travelers colonizing the New World claimed to see mermaids. Today, these sightings are thought to be misidentified manatees. The Dutch Mermaid. In 1403, a dike in the city of Kampen in the Netherlands had a crack in it, opening it up to the sea. Water began to flood into the river. After making repairs, citizens from Kampen claimed that they saw a mermaid swimming in the river in town. At first, people were scared, but the woman continued to swim without bothering anyone. The people eventually decided to capture this woman and bring her on land, where she transformed into a human with 2 legs. She could not speak, but they cleaned her up and forced her to go to church and become a Christian. She attempted to escape and jump into the water multiple times, but someone always stopped her. Some historians believe that this woman, who was never a mermaid at all, she was deaf and mute and just really liked swimming. And then we have the Jioren, or the Jairen. In Chinese folklore, the Jairen weren't just beautiful mermaids. They were skilled craftspeople who could weave beautiful white cloth called dragon yarn that could never get wet. They said that if a mermaid cried, her tears turned into pearls. During the Jin dynasty, one account tells the story of a mermaid who emerged from the water and decided to sell dragon yarn to humans. If anyone was kind to her and gave her a place to stay, she would thank them by crying into a jar, filling it with precious pearls. Throughout history, there are several accounts of high society people claiming that they owned cloth made from the mermaid's dragon yarn. So, let's see. And then I have a few more. So many more stories here about mermaids. Many of you will find, of course you should, find your favorites. Yes? So, to review, now this one in Japan is called the Ningyo. Vastly different than the Western version of a beautiful mermaid, this monster found in Japanese folklore is described as a giant fish with a human face and a monkey's mouth and sometimes even horns and fangs. Okay. In Scotland, they're called, off Scotland and the Orkney Islands, they're called Selkies, are gentle creatures who live their lives as seals while in the water and shed their skin to become human on land. Of course, Mamiwata, the water spirit, we spoke about. Brazil, I just spoke about. Iara. New Zealand, the Maracaiho. My friends in New Zealand, tell me about this, the pronunciation. And in France, of course, we have Melusine. And Ireland, the Mero. Meros. And then Russia, Rusalka Norway, again, the Finnfolk. So, around the world, there have been stories told of these magical creatures. And if you've ever had the opportunity to go to the sea, and I know that there are many people who've never seen the ocean. There are many countries in the center of the continent of Africa where they've never seen the sea, and it's not that big a deal. Don't think that these people are missing out on anything. They're not. You know, during the slave trade, when they got to the port of no return, it was the first time that many of those who were stolen ever saw the sea and the roiling waters of the sea. They thought it was boiling water. You know, can you just imagine seeing that for the first time? Anyway, I have a few mermaid decks. I realized that I actually had a few mermaid decks in my collection. It's kind of ironic that, of course, none of them really worked with me. They're just part of my collection. I think one of the first ones I had ever gotten was this one, Tarot of the Mermaids. And I will show you a few cards. This is a Lo Scarabeo, so of course it's 4 languages. I'm not sure. I think this deck may be out of print now. I'll show you a few cards here. Typical standard Lo Scarabeo there. No big deal. Of course, you know, we're not looking for diversity here. As I said, when I was buying my decks back in the day, I already knew what I was dealing with, so I kept my expectations low. The deck is interesting to read with. It has an interesting spread. As I said, or did I say, this deck may be out of print. Not really sure. I think I have another. I don't know. I can't find it if I do. I tuck things away. Then I have 2 Oracle decks. Oracle of the Mermaids by Lucy Cavendish here. And Jasmine Beckett Griffiths, Myth and Mermaids. Of course, both decks leave a lot to be desired. Let's see. You know, same. This is Oracle of the Mermaids. I do think that Lucy Cavendish is a prolific writer, but you know, most of us, let's see if I can find, we do know that there is a card in here that we have a problem with. Let's see, of course, I'm going to check it, see if it's the last one. No. If you have this deck and you've watched any online reviews, then you know the card that I'm speaking about. And it's one of the problems that we have here in the creation of a lot of these decks. Wow. Did I throw it? Oh, no. Of course. Here we are. That one. Do I need to explain what the problem is? I'm sure by now many of you can figure that out. Yes? You can see that that's just slightly problematic. Not slightly. It is problematic. And in her book, Lucy Cavendish says about Yemaya, Grandmother Ocean, primordial. Let's see. We wish to share with you the knowledge of the old ones, The Orisha Yemaya is often depicted as a mermaid, a vast primordial mermaid with a star shining from her head, a mermaid of power who gives birth to the world. Yeah. She taught us all. She birthed all the sea creatures. She was vast. Island chains are but the scales upon her tail, volcano her belly, and all fates are permutations of her existence. We love Yemaya. She is the great mare being, the mother of us all. But then, the reversed would be seeing divinity as masculine or sky-oriented alone, wondering how the world could be made, and seeing that there must be an off-earth explanation not connected with female power, ardently embracing the masculine principle and wanting to have control over the land and all that lives beneath the sea of the land. Well, we know nothing about what exists at the bottom of the sea. And FYI, that is another Orisha at the bottom of the sea. Anyway, of course, and she will throw in here, seeing the creatures of femaleness and mare as being lovely, but decorative rather than powerful, substantial, and truly engaged with the creation of the planet, mistrusting other faiths such as Santeria and Voodoo, wanting a spirituality to be precisely clean and clear, unmuddied by cultural context and diversity, not understanding how Yemaya can transform into Mary or Morgan and have so many faces and yet be her own self at all times, feeling confused and opting out of belief as a result. So, well, she refers to Yemaya's origins, so why not depict her as she is supposed to be originally? Why not? Anyway, then Jasmine Beckett Griffith's deck. So this is the back of Oracle of the Mermaids. This is the back of, if you're familiar with Jasmine Beckett Griffith's work, then it's these big watery-eyed, watery creatures, big face, big head. It's cute. Okay. The power, again, I think could be in the writing. Okay, that one. Then we move on to Tarot. Oops, move some of these. That troll that I talked about earlier? She even said that she could not stand the sound of my nails on the cards. I mean, she's like, oh my God, your nails. You couldn't even pick up the cards. I don't know how she sounded. I really don't want to know. Anyway, this deck came out a little while ago. The Mermaid Tarot by Lisa Robertson. It had a bit of diversity. It did. Let's see. Yeah, anyway, I'm sorry. I'll show you. Let's just go ahead and do this. So I pulled out some of the cards. Well, I pulled out what I could find in the deck. I'm sure that there are other cards in there. I'll have to look closely for that representation. The guidebook is well written. The imagery is quite beautiful. And of course, you know, Yemaya again here. I suppose, you know, to have her not so looking so sanitized, maybe that would have been, you know, so sanitized, so clean, so ripped of her essence. Like, I mean, it's a beautiful picture, but I'm not feeling that Yemoja powerful energy. Like, have you ever been to the ocean and felt that pull? Like, if you go too far out, that's the power of Yemoja, right? When you stand at the edge of the sea, you stand at the edge at the beach, and you let that water lap, kiss your feet, kiss your toes. That's the gentleness. But the power of Yemoja, that healing, for those of you who have given birth, I mean, this Empress right here, she's fully pregnant. She's about to give birth. She has markings on her belly. That is not a painless process. I don't feel, with this depiction, I don't feel the strength. Okay, so I'm 30 minutes in. I've done a lot of talking. Let's go ahead and wrap this up because I'm sure you just want to see the cards. Okay, so some ideas about mermaid decks. Then we have this one. Messages of the Mermaids. I figured, okay, this is by Karen Kay. And it's a deck that's put out by Hay House. So standard Hay House box, you know, blah, blah, blah. We're going to go into that. It's $20. The card stock is decent. Now, what fascinated me, though, were the images. Very first one. Abundance. Say what? We have a person of color? First card. Now, I'm thinking, you know, that's pretty standard to throw one card in the deck. But then, you know, we have a couple of others. Are you kidding me? Like, what are we doing here? This is new. I'm just saying, I'm seeing a little bit more cultural representation. Now, it could be me. You know, what am I seeing? What am I looking at here? What is here? It's not strictly European. And of course, I mean, how is, you all recognize who that is, I guess, right? So I don't need to say anything there. I'm impressed. I am truly impressed with this deck. I think that I can go ahead and retire my other Oracle decks because I think that I have found a deck that's a little bit more representative of the world in which we live. I'll take a look at the guidebook. I'm going to go through this. Like, oh my gosh. This one, that one, that one. You know, the artwork is beautiful. Like, but if I can have an art print of that, yeah. There's many other cards in here that I have not pulled, but I wanted you to just see the beauty in this deck. The imagery is well done, I think. I'm sure that there will be, of course, complaints, blah, blah, blah. Okay, one thing at a time, right? I haven't really looked at, like, bodies or anything like that. So some of you might feel like, oh, you know, there's no goddess-sized bodies, or maybe there aren't enough mermen in the deck. You know, like, seriously, I don't care. I'm coming from my perspective to have this many cards that show something a little bit outside the standard European norm is impressive. I am enjoying. I haven't read the deck yet. So the guidebook is luscious. The author, Karen Kay, she says she's a direct descendant of Walter de la Mare. Her connection with the sea is from childhood, her love of the sea. She gives you in the guidebook things that you can do to honor the sea. Be careful what you put into the water, creating an altar, having, you know, getting shells, how to create a sacred space, how to take a mermaid bath, you know, protecting and grounding yourself. And then, of course, how to work with the deck. Oh, I need to, well, I don't need to, but let me apologize for any sniffling that you may encounter. See, I have fibromyalgia, and the weather is kind of crazy. And when things are chaotic, my body's in a lot of pain. And when you have autoimmune diseases, I have fibromyalgia and sarcoidosis, you tend to become juicy. That means your membranes and everything open up. So, unfortunately, if I wait until I'm not juicy, I might be 100 years old. So, pardon the sniffling. Calling on your guides, and then, of course, the spreads. And she has a seashell spread here. Of course, you know, your past, present, future. The seashell spread represents the energy currently around you or the recipient of the reading. Underlying energy for card number 2, subconscious, blah, blah, blah. The influences that are coming in, any potential obstacles for cards number 3 and 4, an overview from spiritual perspective. Card number 6 and 7 are your course of action and the outcome. There's a starfish spread here. And then she talks about other ways to use the cards. You can place a specific card on your altar. Just encourages you to be receptive to the meanings that are offered in the book, and of course using your intuition. So let's pull a card for our message today. Let's see what we get. Real quick, you've been with me almost 40 minutes. Thank you so much. You know, it feels kind of good to be doing this. Yes, the world is still chaotic. Yes, I'm still fighting for justice. Yes, I'm still tearing down and working on tearing down these systematic holes that are keeping us from growing. And yes, I am calling out many so-called, those of you who call yourself an ally, what it means to be truly an ally. As I said, I don't want allies. I want accomplices. And I'm going to keep saying that. I don't want an ally who is changeable like the wind. You know, I need to have a level of trust. I need to know that you are in this, not for glorification of self, but to see right restored or brought to the world. Not because you feel like you're going to lose your place of being comfortable, but because for those who you may leave when you leave this world, and those who you leave behind here, you leave them in a better place. So I don't want an ally. I want an accomplice who recognizes that these systems have been built in an egregiously hateful manner and they need to be torn down. So let's work on doing that. Let's work on tearing these things down and removing these blockages. You know, we have to do the work. So let's see. I think I've given this a good enough shuffle now. Let me spread them out here. And which card? Which card? Let's see. Let's pull. I want you to see what I'm pulling. Let's pull this one. Right there. The message. Oh, gentleness. There you are. Let's see what this Jason Momoa-esque Merman has to say for gentleness. Okay. Be gentle towards yourself and others at this time. Being harsh or using brute strength won't benefit you. There's great strength in gentleness. The Merman says that looks can be deceptive and gentleness can be found in the most unlikely people and situations. If in doubt, just look into the heart of a person, for this is where the source of true gentleness resides. The Merman holds his torch of truth so that it may illuminate the path of gentleness for you. This card is asking, are you being gentle with yourself? It's easy to be critical and berate ourselves. Our internal dialogue isn't always gentle, so this is something to be mindful of. Someone around you is in need of gentleness. Many people use a tough love approach in life, but this isn't beneficial for everyone. Think of the wind blowing softly through the trees. It's powerful enough to move the leaves, demonstrating that there's strength in gentleness. Sometimes we feel we need to be tough to navigate certain situations in life. Yet with gentleness comes flexibility, and this means we bend but don't break. This alone is worth pondering. Is there a person who needs to treat you more gently? If so, speak your truth from your heart with kindness and clearly tell them how their hard approach makes you feel, and that a more gentle attitude would reap greater rewards for everyone. So, today being Thursday, Thor's Day, day of Shango, Kai Wo, day of Jupiter, the day of expansiveness. When you're watching this, let's be expansive in being gentle and kind and compassionate to one another. So, with that, I am complete. I look forward to coming back and seeing you guys again. Oh, as a matter of fact, before I leave, I do have, and I will have, a surprise for you. I have a new book called, I'll lift this up a little bit, Yay Yay, Sweetwaters, and the Mean Mermaids. So, I do have my other story time to finish, but I'll be bringing this to you in a few days. Until then, stay blessed and be kind to each other.